of the one God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer. Amen. This week, the epistle had the words that caught my attention. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that, some have entertained angels without knowing it. I had heard that you are learning about hospitality in some of your summer readings. And I have a book called Radical Hospitality, Benedict's Way of Love, that I wanted to share with you. It's one of those favorites that I go back to time and time again when I feel called to preach on hospitality, one of my favorite subjects of Christianity. It was printed actually in 2002, so it's not real recent, but it's very timely nonetheless. Now, the early desert fathers and mothers lived in the 4th century, but by the 6th century, St. Benedict came along and changed the way monastic life was for many. Benedict, like others in his time, established a monastery, but he also wrote a rule of life that is still being followed by Benedictine sisters and brothers the world over. I have the most experience from the Benedictine sisters at Mount St. Scholastica in Atchison, Kansas, where I did spiritual direction training back in the 1990s. St. Scholastica was St. Benedict's twin sister, and Atchison is maybe better known for their St. Benedict's College and Benedictine monastery there than the convent, but the original convent building is a huge 5-floor building with rooms for the sisters, of course, and living spaces, but also rooms for visitors. Benedictine brothers and sisters work in the world and come back together to pray and to live together. They are highly educated, many with masters and PhDs. In our program, the sisters had masters in spiritual direction from Creighton, so we had a lot in common. Besides the more obvious hospitality that they provided to us when we first arrived, a wine and cheese reception, and being available to talk whenever we needed to, they invited all of us, regardless of our denomination, to partake in communion. Pretty unusual for a Roman Catholic community. Hospitality, as practiced in the days of St. Benedict and the ancient monasteries, protected people from the dangers of traveling alone. There were no cheap or safe shelters for travelers. People knew that they weren't safe traveling, so they looked for monasteries that opened their doors to strangers. Even today, hospitality isn't optional to a well-balanced and healthy life. Father Dan Holman in Radical Hospitality says, it meets the most basic need of the human being to be known and to know others. It addresses the core loneliness that we avoid with the bustle and haste of our hectic lives. There is a big loneliness at the center of every person. It is universal, and there is a reason for that loneliness. It is meant to lead you somewhere. Even if you're unconscious of it, the big lonely is driving you homeward. Somewhere, and sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking that we are welcoming the stranger and providing hospitality, when really we are just going through the motions. The ministry of welcoming the other is more than just being nice to someone. someone new that walks through the doors of the church. It is finding a way to connect with them, to open our hearts to them. It is including them and including those who are not like you, not an easy task in today's world. Hospitality is the way we learn to really love. Like prayer and meditation, hospitality becomes a spiritual practice. It's not something you do so much as someone you become. You have to work at it. You try it, and you try it again. You welcome one person at a time, and when the opportunity comes open, you try it again. Jesus said to his followers, "If you feed them, you feed me." So Benedict told his monks, "Receive every person as if you are receiving Christ himself. Let yourself be open to the possibility of God coming to you in the person who walks through the red doors of the church." The people who walk through your doors probably have needs. The obvious need is they're looking for the right spiritual home. And they need to meet people and connect to know if this is indeed the right place for them. Or they may be poor. Remember that Jesus is in the poor. When we turn away from the poor, we lose Jesus and we lose ourselves. They may be gay. The Episcopal Church has become known as a welcoming church in our community, in Nebraska, and the nation. So welcome them as I'm sure you have welcomed them before. Hospitality is the way we learn to really love. It's all about what Jesus has asked us to do. Hospitality feels risky, but it is the most ordinary of human experiences. It is a spiritual experience that we can practice every Sunday of the year, with newcomers first, and then with our friends.